You ever notice how betrayal never kicks in the front door? Nah. It strolls in like a polite guest, wipes its feet, and compliments your curtains before stabbing you in the spine with a salad fork. That Sunday morning, the sun was shining like it had something to prove. The birds were chirping like they'd just signed a record deal. And my wife, God bless her, was wearing that red apron she only dusted off when company was coming. "Honey," she called from the kitchen, voice sugar sweet but lined with something I couldn't quite name. "Big news. We're doing a family barbecue today. I invited everyone." Everyone. That word should have sounded warm. Should have made me picture lawn chairs and laughter and little nephews dripping popsicle juice down their elbows. Instead, it sat in my gut like a cinder block. See, in my world, everyone always comes with a price tag, usually one with my name scrawled across it in permanent ink. I wandered into the kitchen, pretending like I hadn't just done mental math on how much brisket for 30 mouths would set us back. She was glowing, practically levitating over the spice rack, humming some pop tune I didn't recognize. The smell of marinated ribs filled the room. My ribs. The ones I spent yesterday prepping for what I thought was just us. "You didn't mention this," I said lightly, leaning on the counter like a man trying not to tip off the alarm bells ringing in his skull. "Last-minute idea," she chirped, flashing me a smile so polished it could have sold toothpaste. "Family needs bonding time. Plus, you make the best ribs. Everyone says so." Flattery, the duct tape of manipulation. I nodded, played along. Because what else do you do when your wife drops a social grenade in your lap? You pull the pin and smile, that's what. By 3 p.m., the backyard looked like a Norman Rockwell painting with a reality TV budget. Coolers sweating in the shade, folding tables sagging under potato salads and pies, uncles cracking open beers like they were auditioning for a commercial. I worked the grill like a man on probation. Head down, no sudden moves. And then she sidled up behind me, her hand grazing my shoulder. "Honey," she cooed, "could you run to the garage real quick? Grab the special sauce." The special sauce. That was our inside joke. A little tangy mix I whipped up every 4th of July. Nobody else even knew it existed. Her saying it like that, soft, deliberate, should have been my first clue that the ground beneath me was about to split wide open. So, I wiped my hands on a rag, nodded like the good husband I'd spent 10 years pretending to be, and headed toward the garage. The laughter behind me swelled, warm and careless, like they were all in on a joke I hadn't heard yet. The garage smelled faintly of motor oil and cedar, the scent of control, of order, of projects that always made sense. But that day it smelled like goodbye, because right there on the workbench, under the shelf where I kept my fishing tackle, sat a suitcase. My suitcase, packed tighter than a lawyer's alibi, and on top, a single envelope. I didn't tear it open. I peeled it like skin from an old wound. 10 words, written in her looping, confident script. "We have a new head of the family. You're out." Below it, in smaller letters that might as well have been carved into bone. Everyone voted. New locks go on at 8 p.m. For a second, the whole world went on mute. Just me, the whir of the garage fridge, and the slow, steady collapse of everything I thought was nailed down. I turned toward the window, the one facing the backyard. And there they were. My wife, my kids, her parents, cousins I hadn't seen in years. All clinking glasses, laughing like a coup d'etat was something to toast. That's when the hooks sank in deep. They didn't just leave me. They unanimously fired me from my own life. I didn't scream, didn't storm out, didn't even breathe loud. I just stood there with that note in my hand, a man-sized question mark in a garage that suddenly felt like a coffin. Then I did the one thing none of them planned for. I reached for my phone, made one call, and when the voice on the other end said, "Ready?" I said, "Flip the switch," and I walked out without a sound. You ever notice how revenge doesn't roar? It hums, low, steady, like an engine idling under the hood while everyone else is busy admiring the paint job. That's how it felt the second I hit end call and slid the phone back into my pocket. Outside, the backyard was in full swing, balloons bobbing on the breeze, kids sprinting across the lawn with plastic swords, uncles swapping the same tired stories like they'd been rehearsing all week. And her, my wife, at the center of it all, laughing that high, theatrical laugh she saved for company, the one that made people think she was happy. She was happy. They all were, because they thought they'd pulled it off. The note still sat in my hand, its edges damp from sweat, words burning through me like acid. New head of the family. You're out. And that last line, new locks go on at 8 p.m. That one cracked something deep inside me. Not anger, not grief, Something colder. A silence you could skate on. I didn't rush. Didn't fling the garage door open like some action hero. No. I closed it gently, set the note back on the suitcase like I was tucking in a child, and walked to the driveway. Every step felt like slipping out of a skin I'd worn too long. The car door shut with a quiet click. That sound. It was the first domino. I started the engine, eased down the street, and only when the house shrank in the rear view did I let myself breathe. My phone lit up on the passenger seat. Incoming call, Marcus. Marcus, the one friend I could count on. Ex-military like me, but where I traded in tactics for tax returns, he kept his hands in the shadows, cybersecurity, digital risk mitigation. All those polite phrases that meant if you needed a system scrubbed or a life rearranged without leaving fingerprints, he was your man. You ready for this? His voice came through, calm as a surgeon. Flip it, I said. 2 words. That's all it took. Because this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment tantrum. No, this plan had teeth. Teeth I'd sharpened quietly over years of being the family mule, the background noise, the guy who built everything and got credit for nothing. See, while they were busy laughing at my playlists and rolling their eyes at my dad jokes, I was doing the books, the house, paid off in my name, utilities, all routed through my accounts. Her little boutique side hustle, guess whose LLC it sits under? And the emergency fund she bragged about to her sister last Christmas? Not so emergency anymore. Not when I moved it this morning before the ribs hit the grill. Switch complete, Marcus said. A faint clack of keys in the background. Bank accounts, locked. Business suite, firewalled. Utilities, transferred. He paused, then chuckled low. She's gonna light up your phone like Times Square in 5-4. Let her, I said, turning onto the freeway. By 8 o'clock, she'll understand. I hung up and rolled down the window. The summer air hit my face like freedom. Behind me, the house would still be buzzing, beers cracking, someone probably asking where I went. They'd find the suitcase eventually. The note. And when the clock hit 8 and those shiny new locks clicked into place, they'd think they'd won. Until the power died. Until the Wi-Fi blinked out mid-live stream. Until her boutique site redirected every loyal customer to a message reading, ownership transferred. Effective immediately. And then, the final nail, an email scheduled for 8:05 p.m. CCing every vendor, every partner, every smug relative in that backyard. Dear all, effective today, I resign from the role of family fool. For operational inquiries, please contact your new head of household, who currently has no running water, no business platform, and no access to funds. Sincerely, the guy you voted out. The freeway stretched ahead like a dark vein through the city, and for the first time in a decade, I wasn't just driving, I was leaving. The phone buzzed once, twice, then again. A tidal wave of calls stacked on the screen like falling bricks. I ignored them all, every last one, until the freeway split and I veered left, toward the one place nobody would think to look. And as the sun bled out over the horizon, I caught my reflection in the rear view. Calm, steady, like a man who just burned down a kingdom and walked away whistling. Tomorrow, I thought, they'll choke on silence. And I couldn't wait to watch them starve. Here's the thing about control. People don't notice it when they have it. They only notice when it's gone, like oxygen or Wi-Fi. And by the time they notice, it's too late. I was halfway to the state line when the first text landed. What the hell did you do? No greeting. No punctuation after the question mark. Just raw panic squeezed into 11 pixels of rage. I grinned. Not a big villain laugh. Just the kind of smile you give when the universe finally hands you back the remote. Then came the second text. Then the third. By the sixth, she was practically sending Morse code in all caps. The lights just went out. Where are you? Did you turn off the power? No, darling. I didn't turn off the power. I turned off your world. I switched the screen dark and let the car hum. Beside me, a duffel bag sat fat with what I like to call the essentials. Passport, cash, a prepaid debit card, and a flash drive labeled in bold Sharpie, insurance. Back at the house, I pictured the scene like a movie trailer. Guests standing around with red Solo cups frozen midair. Someone tapping a dead Bluetooth speaker like that'll bring the party back. My brother-in-law, Mr. Alpha Male, stomping toward the breaker box with the confidence of a man who's never done anything more technical than reset a router. Cue the dialogue. Maybe the grid's out. No, the neighbors have lights. Try the main switch. Already did. It's dead, bro. And just as their brows knitted into collective confusion, the Wi-Fi would sputter out like a candle in the wind. Phones dropping from 5 bars to that sad little SOS signal. Spotify gone. Instagram loading forever. A digital blackout to match the physical one. Then the real gut punch. Her boutique site crashing harder than a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving. I had Marcus schedule the redirect to go live at 8:03 p.m., 60 seconds after the locks changed. Anyone trying to log into her admin panel would be greeted with a cheery banner. Ownership updated. Please contact Martin Carter for future inquiries. Martin Carter. That's me. The placeholder they voted out. The guy whose name is still on every deed, every tax filing, every bloody utility bill. I could almost hear her shriek ricochet off those backyard walls. The same shriek I used to flinch at during arguments. The one that made the dog hide under the bed. But tonight, it was music. My phone buzzed again. This time, a new tone, one I hadn't heard in years. A group call from Family Circle. That was her idea, by the way. A chat for important updates. I almost answered just to watch the panic bloom in their voices. Almost. Instead, I let it ring, savoring the thought of Aunt Linda trying to mediate like a hostage negotiator while the ribs went cold. Then, at 8:15, the notifications shifted. No more caps lock fury. No more question marks. Just one text from her. Short, stripped of polish. Undo it. 2 words. The Queen surrendering her crown. I read it twice, let it marinate. Funny thing, those were the same words I whispered to myself the night she said she needed space. When she packed that little weekend bag and walked out with the smile of someone heading to a spa, not a cheap hotel with someone who wasn't me. Now she wanted me to undo it. I almost laughed. Almost. But instead, I tossed the phone on the seat, cranked the radio, and kept driving. Because the thing about control, once you take it back, you don't return it. Not for tears. Not for texts. Not for anybody. Next stop, the cabin. 2 hours north, tucked behind a wall of pines and bad cell service. A place she always hated because rustic vibes give me hives. Perfect. By midnight, the house behind me would look like a crime scene without a body. Lights flickering from generator lanterns, voices raised, relationships cracking under the weight of a little well-placed chaos. And me? I'd be sipping bourbon by the fire, watching the flames dance like they knew my secret. The family thought tonight was about ribs and reconciliation. They thought I was the guy you could vote out like a contestant on some reality show. But the thing about reality? It's got teeth. And I just fed it raw. If silence had a taste, it'd be the flavor on that patio at 8:07 p.m., right after the last LED bulb fizzled out like a dying firefly. 1 second, music was pumping, kids were shrieking over cornhole, and my brother-in-law, the self-appointed DJ, was boasting about his legendary playlist. The next, it was dark. Pitch dark, except for the glow of half-melted citronella candles flickering like nervous eyes. I wasn't there, but I didn't need to be. I knew exactly how it unfolded because these people are predictable as reruns. First came the chorus of huh, and what the hell? Plastic cups froze mid-toast. Somebody dropped a paper plate, probably my cousin Drew because his hands shake when things go sideways. And then her voice, sharp, commanding, cutting through the confusion like a knife through overcooked brisket. Check the breaker. Of course she said that, because in her head, everything's a quick fix. A throw pillow here, a breaker flip there, and the world stays Instagram perfect. So cue my brother-in-law stomping to the garage, chest puffed like he's auditioning for Home Improvement, the idiot edition. 10 seconds later, he's back, shrugging like a kid who just got caught cheating on a math quiz. Switch is fine. Everything's off. That's when the murmurs started. Little whispers floating like smoke. Is it the grid? But the Johnsons have lights. Did someone forget to pay the bill? And right on cue, her mother, voice dripping with superiority. I told you he wasn't reliable. Man spends all day tinkering in the garage and can't keep the lights on for a party. Ouch. That one probably stung her more than me. Because see, in her world, image is currency, and right now, her stock was plummeting like a rock tied to an anchor. Then came the text spiral. Guests whipping out their phones, thumbs flying, trying to salvage the mood with Spotify and Snapchat stories. Except, whoops, no Wi-Fi. No LTE either because Marcus didn't just pull the plug. He yanked the whole cord out of their digital lives. Router offline. Network nuked. Welcome to 1992, folks. By now, the panic was creeping in like a slow leak. Aunt Linda fanning herself with a paper plate, muttering about how this never happens at Cynthia's barbecues. A cousin pacing because her Uber app won't load. And my wife, oh, my sweet little CEO, sweating under that perfect blowout, smiling through clenched teeth like a beauty queen at gunpoint. Then the real fun started. Her boutique site, The lifeline she bragged about for months. I pictured the moment her phone buzzed with notifications, angry DMs from customers who suddenly saw my cheery banner. Ownership updated. Please contact Martin Carter for future inquiries. The gasp? Audible. The color draining from her face? Cinematic. And when she tried to log in, fingers trembling, only to find the password reset link bouncing back. Oh, that was the symphony I orchestrated note by note. I can imagine the pivot, her slipping away from the crowd, phone pressed to her ear, dialing me with the kind of desperation usually reserved for ransom calls. And when I didn't answer, that's when the mask cracked. By 8:15, the first argument ignited like dry tinder. Her brother snapping. You knew this was coming, didn't you? The guy's been off for months. Her cousin chiming in with, well, maybe if you didn't treat him like a doormat. The alliances shifting like tectonic plates under a barbecue buffet. Families don't need matches to burn. They just need a little friction. And while the flames caught in that backyard, I was 70 miles north, coasting through pine-lined roads, radio low, my pulse steady. The cabin lights glowed ahead like a secret no one could vote me out of. I parked, stepped out into the crisp night, and let the silence wrap around me like armor. Behind me, my phone buzzed with the kind of frenzy you only see when lives unravel in real time. I didn't look. Not yet. Because the night was young, and my ace in the hole, still snug in the duffel bag, waiting for the encore. What's in the bag? Let's just say by sunrise, they won't just be calling me back. They'll be begging. The cabin door groaned open like it had arthritis, and for a second, I just stood there on the threshold, breathing in that familiar cocktail of cedar and dust. No Wi-Fi. No Alexa. No. Hey, Siri, play my anxiety playlist. Just silence thick enough to hear my own pulse. The kind of silence that used to feel lonely, but now felt like a crown. I dropped the duffel on the old oak table and unzipped it slow, because when you've waited this long, you savor the reveal. Inside, a leather folder, corners worn like a fighter's knuckles. A burner phone, cheap plastic still in its shrink wrap. And the flash drive, my little black meteor. That folder? It's my arc. Copies of every document that matters. Deeds, account authorizations, the LLC paperwork for her Queen of Chic boutique. Everything that makes her empire tick, but stamped with my name like a watermark. She spent years telling people she built that business herself. Cute. She built the brand. I built the bones. And bones don't move without muscle mine. The flash drive? That's insurance. Encrypted files containing screenshots, emails, and, oh, this is rich, a voice memo from her little business trips that weren't so business. Let's just say, if she ever tries to lawyer up, that recording will hit the internet faster than a cat video. I pulled out the burner phone next, tore off the plastic, and powered it up. Preloaded SIM, clean number, untraceable. I typed one sentence into a fresh text draft and saved it without sending. You have 24 hours. Then the world gets a front row seat. Not because I plan to hit send tonight. No. Timing is everything, and the clock hadn't even started ticking yet. While I set the pieces on the table like a general mapping a battlefield, my regular phone buzzed so hard it nearly skated off the counter. I let it vibrate against the wood, lighting up the cabin like a strobe with notification after notification. 47 missed calls, then 89, then 103, and finally, one message that made me stop mid-step. He told everyone, fix this now. Oh ho, there it is. The fracture I'd been waiting for. See, families love secrets almost as much as they love pretending they don't have any. But you stress test that bond, cut the lights, kill the cash flow, and watch the skeletons fall out like drunks at last call. I sat down slow, like a man settling in for a show, because I knew exactly what that text meant. Someone, probably her brother, the loudmouth alpha, decided the only way to dodge the blame was to start flinging mud. And guess whose name was first out of his mouth? Not mine. Nope. Someone closer to her. Someone she trusted. By now, the backyard wasn't just tense. It was an open-air courtroom, everyone lawyering up with gossip and grudges. Accusations flying like mosquitoes. You always liked him more than me. Well, maybe if you paid for something once in your life. Words like that don't heal. They stick. They split. And the best part? I didn't have to lift a finger. I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, sat back in that creaky pine chair, and stared at the duffel bag's contents gleaming under the lamp like treasure in a cave. The plan was working. The locks had changed, the lights had died, and now the crown they fought to snatch was melting in their hands. But I wasn't done. Not by a mile. Because when morning came, they wouldn't just be panicking. They'd be begging. And when you beg, you'll sign anything. You'll agree to terms you swore you'd never touch. And that's when the leather folder comes off the table and slides across a counter like a royal decree. Tomorrow, they'd call it betrayal. I'd call it balance. If chaos had a sound, it would have been that backyard at 9:02 p.m. A cocktail of raised voices, clinking bottles hitting the ground, and one cousin crying into a plate of macaroni salad like it owed her money. See, the thing about family coups is that they look good on paper. We voted, you're out. Sounds neat, democratic, civilized. But strip away the lights, kill the Wi-Fi, and suddenly the new monarchy realizes it's standing on a rickety throne built out of folding chairs. Here's how it unfolded, according to the text storm lighting up my screen. First came the blame game. Brother-in-law Chad, the guy who once declared, "If I ran this family," decided tonight was his TED Talk moment. He slammed his beer on the picnic table and started barking about how I must have been planning this for months. Which, fair point, but the kicker, he didn't stop there. He aimed higher. "You think this is just about him?" he shouted loud enough for the neighbors to pause their Netflix. "No, this started when you," and here, every manicured finger in the Tri-County area pointed at her, "decided to play Queen Bee. Acting like this house is your kingdom while the rest of us bend over backward." Oh, that landed. I know because the next text came from her cousin Lacey, the family's unofficial stenographer. "Girl, he just said you're selfish AF." Then Aunt Linda nodded. "Aunt Linda. You know it's bad when Aunt Linda, keeper of the family guilt scrolls, switches sides mid-feast." And just like that, the cracks widened. Sister chimed in. "Maybe if some people didn't spend every dime on Instagram clothes." To which Wifezilla snapped back. "At least I built something. What do you even do, Karen?" Classic move. Go for the jugular wrapped in a resume. Meanwhile, someone tried to lighten the mood by offering to light the fire pit. Except, surprise, the gas valve was off because, oh yeah, utilities aren't in their name anymore. So now they're yelling in the dark, sweating over cold ribs, looking like extras in a survival reality show none of them signed up for. And then, the secret dropped. I don't know who spilled it first, my money's on Chad because he's about as subtle as a marching band in a library. But around 9:17 p.m., I got this gem from Marcus, who was monitoring the family group chat like a bored hacker watching a soap opera. "Your wife just found out her sister knew about the vote before her. Bloodbath incoming." Oh, sweet harmony. So while they were plotting my exile, someone tipped off the wrong relative early, and now Pandora's box is wide open. Accusations flying about loyalty, favoritism, and, my personal favorite, inheritance. Marcus even screenshotted a message thread. Her, you knew, before me. Sister, don't make this about you. Her, it is about me. This is my house. Chad, technically it was his house. Her, shut up, Chad. That one. I might frame it. The best part? These people thought voting me out was the hard part. Cute. Like decapitating a king means the crown magically glues itself to someone else's head without blood on the carpet. Now they're cannibalizing each other under the glow of dying citronella candles, and the night's not even over. Because I know what's next. I know the exact flavor of desperation that hits when people realize the empire they staged a coup for has no power, no money, and no escape plan. And guess what? That flavor calls for me. So when my phone lit up again, this time with her name and a message stripped down to the bone, I leaned back in that cabin chair and let the bourbon roll slow across my tongue before reading it aloud. "We need to talk. Alone." "Oh, sweetheart. We'll talk. But it won't be about need. It'll be about terms." The phone buzzed again. Same name. Same desperation. I let it ring twice, then answered like I had all the time in the world. "Martin." Her voice cracked on my name. And let me tell you, that was new. She never cracked. "Enjoying the dark ages?" I asked, slow and even. "You made your point. Just undo it. Please." The please almost sounded genuine, like she'd forgotten how to fake it. "Undo it." I chuckled low. "Sweetheart, I don't hit Control-Z. I draft new documents." "What do you want?" There it was. The pivot from power to panic. And that, right there, is when you know you've won. "Tomorrow morning," I said, "you meet me at the lawyer's office on Main. You sign what I put in front of you. No edits. No drama." "What are you?" Click. I killed the call before she could finish, staring at the pine shadows creeping across the cabin wall. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't pick up. Because tonight wasn't about fixing anything. Tonight was about letting her stew in the dark long enough to taste what power really costs. Morning hit like a hammer. Crisp air. pine needles crunching under my boots as I walked into Mason and Burke, the kind of law office that smells like mahogany and quiet vengeance. She was already there, perched in a leather chair like a cat forced into a kennel. Hair pulled back, sunglasses hiding whatever storm brewed underneath. She didn't stand when I walked in. Didn't smile either. Good. Martin. Flat. No sugar left. I dropped the folder on the table. It landed with a satisfying thud. Her eyes flicked to it like it might bite. What's this? Terms, I said, sliding it toward her. You wanted to know what I want. There it is. She opened it. First page. Clean, simple, heavy as a brick. Transfer of ownership and financial assets. Every LLC tied to her boutique, gone. The joint savings? Mine. The house. Still in my name, but now spelled out in black ink for the universe to see. She scanned faster, her breathing turning sharp. You can't. I can't. I cut in. And you will sign it. Today. Her hand trembled. Why are you doing this? I leaned in, voice low enough to make her flinch. Because you threw me out of my own life like a guest who overstayed his welcome. Because you made a vote. And now? So did I. She swallowed hard, flipping to the last page, where my ace waited like a coiled snake, a non-disclosure clause. Sign this, or every little secret from those business trips goes public by sundown. Screenshots included. Her sunglasses slipped just enough for me to see it, the crack in the armor. And in that silence, I knew. I wasn't just back in the game. I owned the board. Pen's on your right, I said softly. The pen hovered like a guillotine blade. One signature away from rewriting her world, and then, knock, knock. The office door swung open, and in walked the last person I expected, Chad, brother-in-law, alpha wannabe, wearing yesterday's barbecue-stained polo and a smirk that didn't fit his face. Well, he drawled, tossing a manila envelope onto the table. Guess I'm not the only one who came prepared. My gut went cold. Her head snapped toward him, eyes wide. Chad, what the hell are you? Relax, he cut in, grin spreading like oil on water. You really thought I'd sit back while you two played tug of war over the kingdom? Please. I've got receipts. And guess what, Marty boy? Your name's all over M. He tapped the envelope like it held the Ark of the Covenant. Tax discrepancies. Asset transfers. You think the family vote was messy? Wait till the IRS gets a load of this little empire you've been hoarding. Silence dropped like a stone. Even the air tasted different. Her voice broke first. You were spying on him? He snorted. On both of you. While you were busy playing CEO Barbie, and he was off building doomsday exit plans, I was taking notes. And now, he leaned in, grinned sharp. I decide who keeps what. The bastard wasn't bluffing. I could tell by the way the envelope sagged heavy with paper. For the first time in 24 hours, I wasn't holding all the cards. But here's the thing about men like Chad. They think leverage makes them kings. They forget one rule. I built this board, and no one outplays the architect. I smiled. Slow. Calm. The kind of smile that makes people nervous. Sit down, Chad. Let's talk terms. Chad dropped into the chair like he owned it, stretching his arms across the table like a man about to carve the turkey. His smirk was pure gasoline. You've got two choices, he said, tapping the envelope with one sausage finger. Split everything 3 ways, me included, or I blow this whole circus wide open. Family meeting, IRS, cops, whatever it takes. She glared at him, voice slicing thin. You'd ruin all of us? Sweetheart, he sneered, there's no us. There's me not going broke while you two play divorce Olympics. Cute speech. Almost convincing. If I hadn't already read his playbook before he opened it. Because Chad's biggest flaw? He talks too much. Always has. Always will. I leaned back, slow as gravity, and slid the flash drive across the table like it was nothing more than a coaster. You like receipts, Chad? Here's a set you'll love. 10 gigs of screenshots, emails, and voice memos. Some featuring a certain brother-in-law running a little import scheme through his buddy's freight company. His smirk faltered. Just a flicker, but I caught it. See, I went on, voice steady as a sniper's breath. You thought I spent the last decade being quiet because I was weak. Nah, I was cataloging. Every side hustle, every under-the-table deal. Even that little poker game you forgot to declare on last year's taxes. So go ahead, take your envelope to the IRS. I'll send this little gift bag straight to federal. Chad's jaw twitched. He glanced at her, maybe hoping for backup. But she wasn't looking at him. She was staring at me, the man they all voted out, like she was seeing the ghost of a life she never understood. You can't, he started. I already did. I cut in, sliding my phone across the table. On the screen, an email draft to a federal contact, attachment queued, just waiting for my thumb to hit send. Chad went pale, the kind of pale that smells like surrender. He shoved his envelope back into his bag without another word and stormed out, doors slamming hard enough to rattle the glass. I turned back to her. She looked smaller now, like the air had leaked out. "Pen's still on your right," I said quietly. Her fingers trembled as she signed, every letter carving a new kingdom, one she no longer ruled. When the last stroke dried, I slid the papers into my folder and stood. "Martin," she whispered, voice cracked like thin ice. "Where are you going?" I paused at the door, gave her the kind of smile that isn't warm or cruel. It's final. Somewhere the votes don't count. Then I walked out, leather folder under my arm, the sound of my boots echoing like a verdict. Behind me, a queen without a crown sat staring at an empty chair. And somewhere in a cabin north of here, a bourbon glass waited for its king.